Australia's Navy is going through a massive transformation. We're getting new Japanese general purpose frigates, the new Hunter-class frigates, and autonomous drone submarines. But what do we have right now, and how do they shape up? Which ships actually make the Royal Australian Navy powerful, and which ones are falling behind? Today, we're breaking it all down in a full tier list of Australia's naval fleet. The strengths, the weaknesses, and where we still need to step up if we want to stay competitive in the Indo-Pacific. I'm Mel Pikos, and today we're talking tactics. Arafura-class offshore patrol vessel. Let's start with the ship everyone's heard of for all the wrong reasons. The Arafura-class is Australia's new generation of offshore patrol vessels. They were designed to replace the Armidale-class patrol boats, but the problem is Australia forgot to give it weapons. It was initially supposed to have a 40mm gun, but ultimately it couldn't be integrated into the vessel. Instead, it received a 25mm cannon, recycled from the Armidale-class ships, plus two 50 cal machine guns. And that's it. No missiles, no torpedoes. The Surface Combat Fleet Review released in 2024 said that the OPV is an inefficient use of resources for civil maritime security operations and does not possess the survivability and self-defense systems to contribute to a surface combatant mission. We were supposed to get 12 of these, but that number was reduced to 6, and so far 2 of them have been received by the Navy, HMAS Arafura and HMAS Air. According to the Navy, the OPV's main roles are to carry out constabulary missions, maritime patrol and response duties. It will operate alongside Australian Border Force vessels, other Australian Defence Force units and regional partners. But they feel a little useless at the moment. If they actually armed these things the way they were originally designed, they could get bumped up to a B tier asset, but right now they sit firmly in D tier. Supply Class Auxiliary Oiler Replenishment. Next up, the Supply Class. These ships are critical for any modern navy. They're the floating gas stations that keep the rest of the fleet moving. On paper, the design is impressive. Long range, high capacity, and capable of supporting naval task groups anywhere in the Indo-Pacific. They carry fuel, dry cargo, water, food, ammunition, equipment and spare parts to provide operational support for deployed naval or combat forces operating far from port for longer periods. Australia's 2 supply class ships came into service in 2021, but so far both have been plagued by teething issues. Mechanical faults, integration delays, and limited sea time have meant that the supply class hasn't quite lived up to its potential yet. Once the issues are ironed out, these ships could more easily move up a grade, but until then, they're stuck at C tier. Armidale-class patrol boat. Now, let's talk about the Armidale class, the Navy's previous generation of patrol boats. These aluminium-hulled vessels were built generally for border patrol operations, and in their early years, they did that really well. They were efficient, fast, and could swap crews quickly to stay at sea longer than the older boats. But the high operational tempo has resulted in the ships suffering from hull fracturing, cracking, corrosion, and mechanical wear. They were workhorses that got pushed past their limits, and the design just couldn't keep up. The Armidales sit in D tier. Useful once, but now well past their prime. Hobart-class destroyer. Here's where things get exciting. The Hobart-class destroyers. These are easily the most powerful warships Australia has ever built or operated. Each ship carries the Aegis combat system, the same system used by the US Navy, allowing it to track over 100 targets simultaneously at ranges over 150 kilometers. They include 48 vertical launch system cells and can currently fire the Standard Missile 2, Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, the Harpoon missile, and MU-90 torpedoes. They also include a 5-inch Mark 45 62 caliber gun, 2 M242 Bushmaster chain guns on Typhoon mounts, and a Phalanx close-in weapons system. With planned upgrades, they'll soon be able to fire the Standard Missile 6 and the Tomahawk cruise missile, giving Australia a long-range strike capability of up to 1,600 kilometers. That is absolutely huge. These are serious ships that make the RAN a credible blue water navy. The only reason they're not S tier is because they're still waiting for those upgrades. For now, They're sitting comfortably in A tier with the clear potential to move to the S tier once that Tomahawk missile gets in place. Canberra-class amphibious assault ships. The Canberra-class amphibious assault ships, also known as landing helicopter docks, are the biggest ships ever operated by the Royal Australian Navy, bigger than our old Majestic-class aircraft carriers. Each ship can carry helicopters, landing craft, and more than 1,000 troops. The ship's roles are to embark, transport, and deploy an embarked force, army in the case of ADF, but could equally be an allied army or Marines, along with their equipment and aviation units to carry out and support humanitarian missions. It's been configured for space for 6 spots for medium-sized aircraft, such as the MH-60R or Black Hawk helicopters. You may notice the ramp at the front of the ship and wonder why we don't launch jets from here. This is because the Canberra-class ships are based off the Spanish Navy's Huon-class strategic projection ships, which utilize the ramp to launch Harrier jets. When modified for use by the Australian Navy, the ramp was kept, but the decision was made to not make use of the short takeoff and landing capabilities. If it was in use, Australia could potentially look at acquiring the F-35B jets and turn these Canberra-class ships into a light aircraft carrier of sorts. Another limitation of the Canberra-class are the self-defense weapons being relatively light. They include a Nixie anti-torpedo towed defense system, 4 20mm automated guns, 6 12.7mm machine guns, and a Nulka active missile decoy system. But the potential is massive. With the right upgrades like VTOL capabilities and stronger defense weapons, the Canberra class could be an A tier ship, but right now they're a strong B tier. MH-60R Seahawk. Now, to the skies, and yes, the Navy operates in the sky as well. The MH-60R Seahawk Romeo is the Navy's go-to helicopter, and it's basically the gold standard worldwide. It replaced 2 helicopters, the SH-60B and the SH-60F, allowing the Seahawk to perform the full spectrum of maritime helicopter roles. It can hunt submarines, engage surface targets, conduct search and rescue, and perform replenishment, passenger and cargo transfers. Its armaments include the AGM-114 Hellfire air-to-surface missiles, the Mark 54 lightweight torpedo, and an advanced precision kill weapons system. Australia operates 23 of these choppers and has another 13 on order. It's a true force multiplier. Every Navy that can afford one wants one. Reliable, deadly, versatile, straight to A tier. Bay-class landing ship. Australia only operates 1 Bay-class landing ship, acquired second-hand from the Royal Navy, but it's been an absolute asset. It was acquired to bridge the gap between the decommissioning of older ships such as HMAS Tobruk and HMAS Canimbla and the as then not yet commissioned Canberra-class ships. The Bay class is simple, reliable, and great for moving heavy vehicles, supplies, and troops during humanitarian or amphibious operations. It's not flashy, but it gets the job done. B tier. Collins-class submarine. The Collins-class is the underdog story of the Australian Navy. Designed and built in Australia, they were once mocked as one of the country's biggest defence procurement failures. Early on, they were noisy, unreliable, and plagued with problems, but once the Navy got them working properly, the Collins-class became one of the quietest and most capable conventional submarines in the world. They've served for far longer than planned, and they've proven they can punch well above their weight. With another round of upgrades, including new combat systems and sensors, the Collins class could easily move into A tier. For now, they sit in B tier, tough, reliable, and still one of the Navy's most important assets. Anzac class frigate. The Anzac class is the true workhorse of the fleet. Built in Australia from a German design, these frigates have been patrolling our waters since the 1990s. The Anzac class is a long-range frigate capable of air defence, surface and undersea warfare, surveillance, reconnaissance, and interdiction. They've been constantly upgraded with new sensors, radar, and missiles, keeping them modern, long past their original life expectancy. They include a Mark 41 VLS with evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, and 2 Mark 32 Mod 5 triple-mounted torpedo tubes. They also have a 5-inch Mark 45 Mod 2 automatic rapid-fire gun, and 4 50 cal machine guns. For defense, they include a range of torpedo and missile countermeasures, as well as electronic countermeasures. The Anzac-class ships have stood the test of time, but at some point, old is just old. The Navy has had to keep these ships in service longer than planned because the replacement Hunter-class frigates are continually delayed. Still, they've earned their reputation as reliable and versatile. That's a solid C tier. Leeuwin-class survey ship. The Leeuwin-class ships were originally built for hydrographic survey work, mapping the seafloor, charting Australia's coastline, and supporting navigation. But in recent years, as other patrol boats were retired, they've been called on to do general patrol work too. They've handled it pretty well, but they're not designed for it. One of the 2 ships has already been decommissioned, and the other continues to do double duty. Not bad, but definitely overstretched. C tier. Huon-class Minehunter. The Huon-class are small coastal minehunters built in the 1990s. They were solid little ships based on an Italian design built in Newcastle. The Huon-class features a unique hull design, shock resistance, and an inherently low magnetic signature, allowing the ships to operate in hostile mine environments. Each hull was designed with no ribs, frames, or stiffeners to avoid local stress points that could separate under shock conditions. But the problem wasn't the design, it was the mission. Australia just doesn't have much need for mine hunting. Most have been relegated to goodwill visits or local patrols, and only 2 of 6 remain in active service. They're capable but underused. C tier. Cape-class patrol boat. The Cape-class patrol boats were never meant for the Navy at all. They were built for the Australian Border Force. When the Armidales started breaking down, the Navy borrowed a few of these to plug the gap. They're simple, commercial-grade patrol boats that can handle border work, but not much more. They're a temporary fix, nothing more, nothing less. D tier. Evolved Cape-class patrol boat. Following the previous entry, the Evolved Cape-class sounds like it should be an upgrade, and technically it is. A few extra systems, some minor improvements, a bit more range, but it's still basically the same underpowered patrol boat with limited military capability. In a real naval fight, it wouldn't stand a chance, so just like its predecessor, the Evolved Cape-class sits in D tier. Where does that leave us? The Royal Australian Navy right now is a fleet in transition. Half its ships are modern and highly capable, and the other half are aging, underarmed, or temporary stopgaps. But what's clear is that when Australia gets it right, like the Hobart-class destroyers or the Collins submarines, the results are world-class. With new ships, nuclear subs, and long-range missiles on the way, the Navy of the 2030s could look very different. The challenge, as always, will be getting from the plans on paper to ships in the water. But what do you think? Should any of these capabilities be moved up to a higher tier or decommissioned entirely? And where do you think the future Hunter-class frigates and the Mogami general-purpose frigates or the nuclear submarines, where will they sit? Let me know in the comments section down below. That's it for today. I'm Mel Pikos, and we've been talking tactics.